Good afternoon, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues. 2 days ago, the new Polish law on the Supreme Court entered into force. The President of the Republic of Poland, Wouters, swiftly informed the head of the Supreme Court that her term has, as a result, ended. Another 27 Supreme Court judges might be awaiting a similar fate over the coming days and weeks. Now, although we may have become numb to this news, as gradually the Hungarian state has been captured by its ruling party, as far-right populists have risen to the governments in Italy and Austria, and amid ongoing animosity among established Western partners, these are truly extraordinary times for the European Union. Extraordinary times, but all for the wrong reasons. There can be no doubt that these developments lead the EU astray from its fundamental values listed in Article 2 of the Treaty on European Union, the DNA of the European Union. Notably, democracy, the rule of law, human rights, and more broadly, justice, solidarity, and tolerance. Recognizing the moral danger posed by the erosion, and some even say the gangrene, of our shared values, RECONNECT will intervene in the public discourse to build a new narrative for Europe. I should say a few words, of course, about RECONNECT. It's a 4-year multidisciplinary research program funded by the European Union's Horizon 2020 program, which I have the honor and pleasure to coordinate, involving 18 great partners. We just kicked off, and in fact, this is the public part of our kickoff meetings, and we start with our project from the observation that the EU and its member states are confronted with an existential crisis of the entire European project. As a result of successive crises, an increasingly large share of the population perceives the European Union as an undemocratic and unjust political system. But the crisis and the scope of the research that we're going to do with RECONNECT goes way beyond the EU and our own member states. In its May-June issue of this year, the journal Foreign Affairs published a global report on the decline of democracy, with as a lead question, is democracy dying? Editor Gillian Rose notes the following in his introduction, and I quote, "Centralization of power in the executive, politicization of the judiciary, attacks on independent media, the use of public office for private gain, the signs of democratic regression are well known to us. The only surprising thing, he notes, is where they have turned up. As a Latin American friend put it ruefully, we have seen this movie before, just never in English." End of quote. All of this is also shaking the European Union to its core. Our underlying assumption as a research program is that the deeply diverse and pluralistic European Union of today needs to be more firmly rooted in justice and solidarity in order to be sustainable. Our working hypothesis is that European governance can regain authority and legitimacy through democracy and the rule of law, provided citizens' aspirations and preferences are duly taken into account. This, in our view, will allow for a badly needed renewed trust and recognition of the European Union as a policy provider and as an actor that acts with view to establishing, and I quote, a society in which justice and solidarity prevail, to quote again from Article 2 of the Treaty on European Union. RECONNECT is a particularly rich research program. As part of it, we will look at the principles underlying the rule of law and democracy at both the European Union and member state level, including a historical perspective tracing the evolution of these foundational concepts over time. And those who know a little bit about these notions, think of État de droit, État, rule of law, and so on, know also how diverse and multifaceted these notions are in their different contexts. Far from keeping to a purely conceptual analysis, RECONNECT will also analyze the prevailing rule of law and democratic practices, how actors translate principles into practice is crucial to obtaining a full understanding of the problems. And in the third place, and further illustrating RECONNECT's ambition to escape the academic ivory tower, we will look at the perceptions of citizens and the expectations they hold in relation to the rule of law and democracy. We will collect lots of new data, which will hopefully bring us to new ground in this line of research. Principles, practices, and perceptions will therefore form the lens through which our RECONNECT program aims to analyze the issues before us. We will in particular evaluate their coherence, and we will seek the gaps between them. Are principles practiced in a way which respects their core? Concretely, we can, for example, ask ourselves about the constitutionality of some of the actions of the Polish government right now. Moreover, how are the principles and the practices perceived by the citizens? Is there a disconnect between their expectations and the principles that lawyers endlessly debate on the pages of law journals, and I plead guilty to it, behind the doors of the Berlin? What RECONNECT is ultimately interested in, however, is to tackle the contestation of the EU's authority and legitimacy. What we will actually inquire, what has been the impact of the many crises of the EU and the many challenges, the economic financial crisis, the migration crisis, terrorism, and so on. What has been the impact of those crises on the legitimacy of European integration? What is the impact of the erosion of the traditional democratic pillars of the EU in some member states? These crises appear to exacerbate democratic deficiencies of the EU, of which the research community and even the public have been aware for quite a long time. But as a corollary of contested legitimacy, the EU's own authority has also been contested. Some politicians are calling for the repatriation of powers to the national level. And we see clearly that the EU has not superseded national sovereignty, and that national sovereignty remains very much alive in national political discourses. And some have actually predicted this at the outset of the European integration process. In fact, if you read the biography of Jean Monnet, you will see exactly this debate among the French political elites of the 1950s, striking back with renewed fire after the end of the political term of Robert Schuman. So it's not a new thing, and it's very important for us to go back and revisit some earlier episodes in European integration. In the final instance, RECONNECT is going to formulate policy recommendations and maybe even propose amendments to the treaties in line with the findings of our research program. While at this point, of course, changing the treaties may not seem very likely, it is important to put workable and evidence-based proposals on the table for discussions among stakeholders and the public. And who knows, maybe the political situation may change radically in the next 4 years. This is a 4-year project. We will end in April 2022. Many important elections, besides, are awaiting us during this period, starting with next year's European Parliament elections. But discourse and communication is, in our view, at least as important as policy recommendations. And that's how we, as RECONNECT, we aim to generate a new narrative about the EU's legitimacy and authority, one that is fit for the 21st century. We believe that democracy, rule of law, justice, and solidarity should be at the heart of that narrative. And it should be an effective way of counteracting the spread of fear and populism that we witness nowadays on an everyday basis. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues, as you see from the program for this afternoon, a very rich program, we will now first listen and look to two video messages that are setting the scene. They are really spot on the themes of RECONNECT. One by the European Ombudsman, Mrs. Emily O'Reilly, the other by a very active member of the European Parliament with regard to the rule of law problematic, Mrs. Sophie in 't Veld. We will then successively listen to two keynote speeches, one by Polish Ombudsman, Mr. Adam Bodnar, the other by His Excellency Didier Reynders, Minister of Foreign Affairs of Belgium. And as you will have noticed, after that we will really go, Duc in Altum, we will really go in depth, deepen our discussion with Smith, I should say the Baroness Smith of Newnham, member of the House of Lords and director of the European Centre at Cambridge University, the other policy roundtable on the rule of law challenges in the EU, chaired by our esteemed colleague and friend, Professor Laurent Pech, Jean Monnet Chair at Middlesex University, London. I wish you all a fascinating and fruitful conference. Thank you very much.